Welcome to the 20th episode of the Launch and Landing series. Today I am in Stubaital, a valley about 25 kilometers south of Innsbruck. It is said to be the living room of the local paragliding scene. Covered between the mountains, the conditions here are very often excellent for both soaring and cross-country flying. There is an event here today, the Stubai Cup. So there will be a lot of pilots out and about, but we don't let that bother us and start with the first launch site at Elfer Mountain. Here we can see the whole valley, and Elfer Mountain is about 1/3 up on the left hand side. The whole area is also called Flypark Stubai. Elfer Mountain's takeoff is located at the middle station directly at a skiing slope. There is plenty of space at the takeoff. In summer, the area for the paragliding school and the ordinary pilots is separated so nobody gets in each other's way. The student pilots are launching from below the hiking trail over the ski slope. All other pilots have to walk up the mountain for a couple of meters. In winter, the takeoff is to the right-hand side of the slope. And this is how it looks like if there's a lot of pilots queuing up. The takeoff is good for wind from north and northeast. It is on an altitude of a little more than 1,800 meters and the distance to the landing is about 1,000 meters. There is a remote area behind the cable car station where the pilot can prepare the gear. The last pilot in front of the queue is launching, and now it's my turn to get out. Here in front of us we can see the huge Stubai Valley. During summertime, when the wind is picking up at midday, on the right hand side there is a great soaring ridge. Now let's turn around to get a final view from the takeoff side. Here in front of us now Elfer Mountain and the skiing slope where I just started. Besides the takeoff from the middle station, in winter it is also possible to take off from the top of the mountain. The next station after Elfer takeoff will be the landing in Neustift. It took me about 12 minutes in these weak conditions to get down. Here you can see me approaching to the landing, and on the right hand side we see the valley where in spring and in summer the pilot might have to consider strong winds blowing up the valley for the landing. The rules for landing are described on the official information board of the local paragliding school. One of the main rules is not to get too close to the houses on the left hand side, but to keep away from them, especially in strong wind conditions. If the wind is up the valley, the pilot has to do a left circle to get in. Otherwise a right circle is required to do the final leg towards the town. Let's get down to the landing quickly now. In summer it is important, whilst going down to the landing, to watch out for the hang gliders, because they are on priority. If the wind is too strong for a normal landing, you might consider to aid down in front of the landing site. So here we are. The landing site is facing to the northeast. It seems to be huge, but especially in summertime, if the landing is bordered, the land side is about 150 meters long and 50 meters wide. I consider there are not a lot of obstacles, except for these small huts spread all over the meadow. But well, despite of the size of this landing field, not everybody is able to make it without an accident. From LL Landing in Neustift, the next station will be Kreuzjoch Take Off. A cable car brings up the pilot to Kreuzjoch Mountain in a 10 minutes ride. On the left hand side we can see LL Take Off and Neustift Landing in the distance. The altitude of the launch site is almost about 2,100 meters. The height difference to the landing is nearly 1,200 meters. It is an east takeoff that can be used to the south as well. So here I'm now at the Schlick 2000 takeoff. Kreuzjoch Mountain is also called Schlick 2000, and the main takeoff for paragliders is just 10 meters below the hang gliding ramp, which you can see if you get out of the cable car. The slope is not very steep and therefore easy to master even for inexperienced pilots. Due to the exposure of the takeoff towards the sun, cross-country flights are possible already early in the year. As I looked at the clouds, I realized that the weather conditions were deteriorating. Well, we have a strong south wind and föhn is predicted. My launch from LL Mountain in the morning was still okay, but conditions got worse and worse during the day because of strong southern winds. I don't think I will take the risk. But there was another pilot at the launch site who was not as scared as I was, and we can watch him now how to handle this takeoff. Well done. So this was the only person who started now. After in the morning, quite a lot of pilots started here. But in the afternoon, there was an official stop for takeoffs from the local paragliding school for the participants of the Stubai Cup Festival. Nevertheless, there are quite some pilots in the air, and amazingly, they have gone for a cross-country flight towards the Stubai Glacier. Stubai Glacier is one of the typical routes for the paragliders in this area here. I'll come back to these routes later in the video. Let's move now to the remaining landings, starting at the main landing in Fulpmes. Here we see the sign of the second landing. It's a huge area here, and I guess it's 100 to 200 meters long. But I think the area is a little bit restricted, even though the field seems to be quite big. At the sign of the landing, the local paragliding club asks the pilots only to use a strip of about 45 meters next to the road for landing. Also, the buildings next to the landing should not be crossed. Regardless of these restrictions, I still believe the landing is very easy, and I did not find any obstacles besides the houses next to the landing. But there are warnings from local paragliders that there might be strong winds blowing up the valley in certain weather conditions. While this landing is a 30 minutes walk to the cable car, you might be able to use a temporary landing next to the cable car if it is available. Here we see the windsock, would be perfectly for landing now. Well, the southern föhn did not break through yet, so landing was still possible, but as I didn't want to take off in these conditions at Kreuzjoch, we have to watch this pilot instead to see how the landing is situated. The area is much smaller than at the official landing we've just been a minute ago, and there are obstacles to the right, a farm, and a fenced border in front of the landing. Also, the whole terrain is not flat, but slightly sloping down. Only its proximity to the cable car makes it advantageous. Let us summarize the paragliding area. There's the LL20 takeoff to the north and the northeast, the landing in Neustift, the Kreuzjoch Take Off to the south and to the east, the main landing in Fulpmes, and the temporary landing near the cable car. Now I come back to the paragliding routes that are explained on a sign in front of the local school. There is the so-called race track, an 18-kilometer long route starting at Kreuzjoch to the opposite mountain, then Elfer mountain and landing in Fulpmes. Also starting at Kreuzjoch is the small Stubai cross-country flight. The turnaround is at the almost 3,000 meters high Brennerspitze, back to Elfer mountain and then to Fulpmes Landing. And finally there is the 45-kilometer long glacier cross-country flight, all the way up to Stubai Glacier and back to Neustift Landing. While all these routes are heading south, unfortunately, the way to the north is limited due to the Innsbruck airport, from where the valley begins just a few kilometers south. That's it from Stubaital. I hope you enjoyed the video.